Hey, Connecticut. Chris Murphy made a lot of promises when Kamala Harris promised him to be Secretary of State. So, unfortunately, now that the Doge is involved, Chris won't be paying all these people back. Listen.
Very long day today, full of a lot of bullshit, a lot of threats to democracy. And I figured I'd come on and talk to you a little bit about what happened behind the scenes in the United States Senate today, try to help parse out for you what matters and what doesn't matter, and try to connect some of the dots, because obviously a lot is happening right now between the attempted billionaire takeover of our government, the shuttering of government agencies, and then tonight, the cherry on top, Donald Trump's announcement that we are apparently about to occupy Gaza. It's important for us to, be.
Murphy is pro-Palestine, and he took the Houthi off the terrorist watch list. So he owes the Houthi money, probably.
Conversation about what matters and what doesn't, and what you can do to fight back. I haven't done this format in a long time.
He has to do this format because he's losing his network of media contacts who no longer want to support him and drag their newspapers down.
I used to do more of this years ago, but it feels like part of my job right now is to be in as many different discussions with
He's living in another world.
All of you as is possible. I feel like in this moment, people, desperately want to plug in. I think there was a lot of folks who were licking wounds. I know a lot of you were just exhausted because
Chris is morally and ethically bankrupt. His wife just left him. I wonder why.
Because you fought your heart out for Kamala or for your favorite candidate for Congress, and you really wondered what had become of this country that they elected Donald Trump.
Excuse me. Chris Murphy rigged his own election because I ran against him, and my voters had their votes erased, all of them. Chris Murphy used CISA and the Department of Motor Vehicles to register 800,000 illegals through the same mailing address in many cases, mailed them absentee forms, and stole the election. Now, unfortunately, when he stole the election, people who voted for me would have voted for Donald Trump. And those votes got canceled too. So not only did Chris Murphy rig my election, but he affected the outcome of the presidential election.
Knowing exactly who he was, and a lot of you I know, just stepped back for a little bit, and sometimes that's really necessary, to make yourself healthy, to get your bearings. But our phones have been lighting up just in the last 48 hours. Something has tripped all across the country. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to plug in and help you understand how to be impactful.
From his kitchen.
Impactful at this moment. So I poured myself a drink. It's pink. It's vodka and grapefruit juice.
He's drinking while he's talking.
Which I guess some people call a greyhound. But I definitely needed a drink after today. And I want to help everybody understand the gravity of the situation that we're in today.
Treason. Murphy committed treason in Ukraine and Iran. What he did with the CIA, he has oversight through the Department of Homeland Security. He is foreign relations for Iran, Ukraine, Israel, and many other countries, including where the bribes were paid and taken. Look at Menendez, 11 years imprisonment. Murphy's going to get 25.
So Here's the stuff that's dominating the headlines, and it's real stuff. It's important. First, you have the shuttering of USAID. This is an agency that
the slush fund that Murphy pays bribes out of
protects America all over the globe, that chases terrorists and tries to combat Chinese influence, that helps Ukraine fight against Russia. It saves lives. It responds to famine and pandemic.
Ukraine. Murphy threatened to withdraw all Ukraine support if Biden was investigated on behalf of Trump with Burisma and Hunter Biden, who cut a deal. But they didn't get a deal for Murphy. They did not get a deal for Leiter. Leiter is Murphy's lobbyist. Who's Hunter Biden's lobbyist? Who's Richard Blumenthal's lobbyist?
Disease, it provides nourishment to babies who are...
He doesn't care about babies. He's pro-abortion. He has oversight of the Ukraine biolabs because he is chair of foreign relations for Ukraine. He knows exactly what they did for Yale and Pfizer. They know about the studies. Chris Murphy allowed orphans to be tested with vaccines without consent. This is murder.
On the verge of death because of malnutrition. And tonight
He's killing the babies, folks. He's not concerned about malnutrition of babies.
We're learning that it is about to be vanished into thin air. The Trump administration started by freezing all grants. Then they told the Washington staff to stay home. And now apparently they're calling out to all USAID staff around the world and telling them to pack their bags. This is a crisis in and of itself. Second, you've got this theft of our data happening at Treasury. I was over at the Department of Treasury.
Treasury, very interesting. Hey, I'm in a video, so... I'm in the middle of a video, so...
Okay, I want to tell you. Are we taping this?
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to say that there was a superintendent of the school district that got arrested for DWI.
Right.
And he was in my district at one point,
right,
where I was swindled out of my house by a company called Continental Home Loans.
Okay.
The owner was, one of the presidents there is Tom Monty.
Okay.
He used to talk it.
Okay.
He swindles people out of their homes, and then he closes that company, opened another one called Freedom Mortgage. That is where this superintendent has his mortgage.
Wonderful.
It's
so he's getting paid back.
Both of us.
Right. So he'll get a 0% loan or something.
No, he buys it with his personal company, Milco Capital Corp. Then he sells it back and forth, the mortgage back and forth, each time making money on it. He swindles the homeowner out of their home. He stages a car accident to break up the family. The family fights, and he steals the house back. This guy, Thomas Monty. It's a Ponzi.
Thomas Murphy. Any relation to Chris Murphy?
Monty, M-O-N-T-E. Monty.
Oh, Monty. Sorry, I misspoke.
Monty. Yeah, he does this over and over again, always to the Catholic families.
They're robbing the Catholics. Wonderful.
Again. All right, have a good day.
Super fantastic.
Bye.
Bye. Tonight with a bunch of House and Senate colleagues, and it certainly does appear like Elon Musk and his creepy band of 22-year-old henchmen have access to all of our financial information, our tax returns, our Social Security accounts, your Medicaid and Medicare information. This is a catastrophe. And then the backdrop of all of this is Trump's attempt to just shut down all federal spending.
No, I got something for you for Himes.
What's that?
Millions of dollars for a transgender comic book.
Nice. He did it?
For Peru.
Oh, Peru. Yeah, that's his country where he was born.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff in Peru going on.
No, I just sent you the clip that the guy explains how they're spending millions of dollars for a transgender comic book for Peru.
No doubt.
No, that right there puts him away. That takes care of him for the day.
Okay. I understand. I read the thing about Peru.
Yeah.
It's like hundreds. It's not just 22 million. It's lots of deals.
Well, no, I just sent you a clip of a whistleblower in front of that Broad Green. You met Green, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. She has a committee, and I just sent you the clip of her hosting 4 people, and this guy just said in the beginning of the segment.
In the Medicaid program through legislative action. That would include repealing Biden's disastrous Medicaid streamlining rule, which ties the hands of states trying to remove ineligible enrollees. You can and should do this through reconciliation, and it will produce $164 billion in savings if you do. You can also strengthen verification requirements to ensure only eligible individuals receive benefits and ensure a nationwide NAC is implemented without delay. Second thing Congress can do is help President Trump's DOGE effort by ensuring that entrenched partisan bureaucrats don't stand in the way of reform. So Musk and his DOGE team have already found hundreds of billions of dollars funneled into wasteful, fraudulent, and flat-out insane projects. But they've only scratched the surface. If this much fraud has been exposed in just a few weeks, imagine what else is buried under layers of red tape and government excuses. But guess what? All of these insane projects have one thing in common. They were all approved and funded by unelected bureaucrats. And these and other entrenched bureaucrats are already pledging to fight against President Trump's efforts to improve government accountability and efficiency. Personnel is policy. And without competent staff to faithfully execute the president's agenda, the DOGE project will fail. And this is where Congress can help. Congress can support the president in carrying out his DOGE effort by making all executive branch employees at will, codifying the president's authority to fire unproductive or insubordinate agency employees as needed. At the same time, Congress can grant the president authority to permanently eliminate vacant positions and consolidate non-essential positions across agencies and departments to help promote efficiency and put the right people in the right seat. The third thing, Congress can make President Trump's DOGE cost-cutting and deregulatory reforms permanent by passing the REINS Act. And so there's only one big problem with the DOGE effort. Most of its work can be undone by a future president with the stroke of a pen. To make President Trump's DOGE reforms permanent, Congress must act. And the best way to do this is to pass the REINS Act. This would return Article 1 budgetary power of the purse to Congress while promoting deregulation.
I hear what you're saying, bro.
Okay. Well, and there's the other one. It says stressed out about the election.
Yes.
That describes Murphy right now. It doesn't describe the voters. It describes Murphy. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. So for whatever it's worth, those 2 would probably be the only 2 that I recommend for the rest of the day. Not to fucking fill your mind up with shit, but so you can do your own stuff. But
okay.
I just figured I'd send you because I've got stressed out about the election.
Right.
And one I just sent was the watch Fox News Channel online.
Okay.
At 10:33, I sent it.
Okay.
So you may not have it in your box yet, but
cool.
But this all
excellent job, bro.
Transgender comic books for Peru. That's all I got to say, John.
That's all I got to say. You know that little guy who was the senator from New Canaan?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah.
He worked for Himes. Dennis Bradley worked for Himes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Will Haskell was probably his lover.
Well, see, at this point in time, John, this kind of shows you how fucking, sooner or later, John, it was going to come back to us tenfold. I just didn't think it would come back to us like this.
This quickly.
Well, no, I thought we'd have to work for it.
Oh, they're going to hand it to us.
They did.
Well, he hasn't answered to the writ yet, so how can he not answer his lawsuit?
Well, see, that's the whole thing, John. Remember now, if he keeps losing the way he is, he's going to have to answer that. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's hope it happens sooner than later.
Like, in other words, he's always been, all of them are all Teflon coated.
Look what his own comment is. It's been a long day full of a ton of bullshit.
about the price of eggs, Chris. You know?
Nothing about the Connecticut constituents.
Right, right. Nothing about us.
He's upset he didn't get the job.
Exactly.
So he's in the penalty box for high sticking now, and now he can't make the payments he promised.
And now do your other thing, read that stress thing. And to be honest with you, that stress thing is not about the voters. That stress thing is about Chris and Himes and Courtney and Delore and Warren. Warren lost her whole commission. They took her whole commission away from her. They didn't they didn't cut the program. They eliminated the whole office. You follow what I'm saying?
Wow. I wonder what's coming up next.
It doesn't make any difference. This is fun.
Elizabeth Warren is about as woke as you can possibly be. There's no way that she could be winning that election.
Well, no, I think the other thing too, John, is, and this is really important, Chris Murphy forgets about those people that went through the hurricane down in Virginia. I mean, the floods down in Virginia.
Right.
Chris is forgetting about, I don't know if you realize it or not. I realized it yesterday, and I got a hold of a couple of newscasters, and they thank me, and they owe me favors at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The country has been turned upside down. In Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Maine
Mm-hmm.
are hurting right now
Mm-hmm.
because I saw some footage yesterday, and I called NBC up and said, "Do you guys know what you're actually reporting?" And they went, "Nah, not because you got to tell us, Rick, what's going on." I said, "Did you see those fucking guys trying to clean up that oil spill in, I don't know, fucking Waterford or something?" And they go, "Yeah." They didn't look like they knew what they were doing. I go, "Do you have any fucking idea why everybody is fucking not able to take care of a spill, oil spills and contamination and everything else?" And they go, "Come on, Rick, tell us what's going on."
They fired the whole deep staff. There's nobody there with any experience at all.
No, there's nobody left in this end of the country.
Oh.
Clean Harbors, the company I used to work for,
Yeah.
has spearheaded a project in California with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Mm-hmm.
Every fucking truck, every person, every drum, every fucking pad you put in the water, even the people who are fucking answering the phone have gone to California to work. Clean Harbors has the entire...
Oh, I see. They're going out there to clean up Hollywood.
No, their entire company, with the help of the Army Corps of Engineers, created a hazardous waste terminal.
Wow.
No, they have over 400 trucks. 400 trucks in one spot right now. They put trucks on Amtrak to get the vehicles out to California.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an oil spill right now, there isn't anybody in the state of Connecticut can answer the phone and tell you they'll be there in within the hour to help you.
Hmm.
All the companies in Connecticut that have been trying to be big companies,
Mm-hmm.
falling on their face because the phone's ringing off the wall and they got nobody to answer. I mean, they can only take one spill at a time.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about over 10,000 employees from Clean Harbors, and their trucks, their vehicles, and their components are all going to that site in California.
Wow.
I was watching late night.
They never did get back to us about stone crushing in Norwalk. I mean, honestly.
Well, right now the state DEP in Connecticut's falling apart anyway because there's a lot of reasons for that.
All right.
But this kind of shows you that the whole country is focused on helping the people that are hurting the most.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a minor detail.
Well, it's nothing Chris Murphy's done.
Well, it's minor detail. He didn't talk about.
Look at the salt. Look at the salt. New London Pier. They have a shortage of salt. They can't even deliver it. They're out.
If the pile was in New London right now, Connecticut would be almost golden. But what they not the state of Connecticut.
They're not telling you they used all the salt for the year.
Well, let's put it this way. I just came from Rings End yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Rings End has no supply of salt coming.
Wow.
We got back-to-back storms.
And they only have 30 stores, so hey.
They put a pallet in front of the Rings End here in Madison of 40-pound. It wasn't even salt. It was some fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was $40. It's 20. Yeah. What was it? 40? Well, anyway, it doesn't make any difference. All I'm telling you, John, is that we are getting hit with disaster,
Total incompetence.
and we have nobody at the helm.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. Let me hop. I'll call you later.
okay.
Let me finish the Murphy thing.
The only thing I ask you to do is keep watching your mail and your spam.
Okay.
And I won't have to call you again because I know you'll at least see it before the end of the day.
Okay, cool.
I'll leave you alone, John. Take care.
Ciao. That's a guy on my team who we have a long-term goal.
Shut down the entire federal government, and then the court orders that have been issued stopping him from doing that. And I guess I want to make the case tonight that this is all one thing.
Excuse me. We have a lawsuit with Chris Murphy. We accused him of committing treason 12 times, and he's still in office. And the judges are involved up to their eyeballs. Judge Meyer should have been put in jail. Now we have Judge Oliver, who's worse.
And actually, his announcement tonight that we're going to occupy Gaza is also part of the same thing. And so what is it? The thing that we are focused on is the billionaire takeover of government in order to steal from you to enrich the billionaire class. And it is all part of that same story, layered on top of.
How did Chris Murphy make $1 million this year? How does Jim Himes make $23 million a year? How does Blumenthal become a billionaire?
That is an assault on democracy and the rule of law.
He doesn't care about the rule of law. They don't follow the Constitution in the Constitution state, and they should be shut. Under Chris Murphy, they took away the 25th Amendment, the right to a grand jury, and all sheriffs. Sheriffs were removed from the state of Connecticut so that the judges couldn't be arrested.
That is intended to take away from all of us the ability to dissent and protest the billionaire theft.
Chris Murphy put Judge Meyer on the bench with Blumenthal because it's subject to judicial review and a vote at the U.S. Senate. Chris Murphy put Judge Oliver on the bench with Richard Blumenthal, and those judges should be under scrutiny because their pension is managed by BlackRock, who bought senators, and I can make an assumption, they bought Chris Murphy.
Of our salaries, our Medicare accounts, our paychecks. Okay? And what I want to talk to you all about tonight is the fact that
Hold on. Bank America, which is 100% owned by BlackRock, is Jim Himes' largest donor. Jim Himes took money in from Sam Bankman-Fried. So did Chris Murphy.
they can't beat us. They think they can. These tech bros have so much hubris. They are so full of themselves. Donald Trump is so full of himself, having gotten away with what he's gotten away with, that they think they can pull off the biggest scam ever perpetuated.
The biggest scam ever perpetuated is Chris Murphy.
On Americans. They think that they can literally take over the United States government, the billions of dollars that flow through the United States government, and they can just steal it all for the billionaire class. And they can do it in a way that won't allow us to object. They're wrong. We still have more of us than them. We still have the power of our voices. We are not devoid of power in the United States Senate. Oh, that was pretty cool. Did I just do that with my thumbs? See, it's been a while since I've been on Instagram Live. And so I want to give you some confidence and some optimism tonight that what is happening right now as Americans are rising up and saying, no, it matters. It matters. It is not too late to make sure that our billionaire class doesn't get away with this thievery. Okay, so let me start by talking about what's happened writ large across the government. So Trump comes in and he says, listen, we're just freezing all government spending. And for a day, he froze all government spending, including Medicaid. The court stepped in, within 24, 48 hours, said that is totally unconstitutional. Congress decides how money is spent. The president cannot interrupt all government spending, all government contracts. Why is Trump doing this? It's so important to always ask the why. And so here's my answer. And I hope that you listen to the case I'm making, because I think there's truth here. What Trump wants to do is take control of all federal spending so that he can use spending to reward his friends and to punish his enemies.
The only people being rewarded in New England are, for example, Connecticut, DeLauro, Himes, Larson, Courtney, and Hayes, next to Blumenthal and Murphy, that run the country, not the state. He's not talking about Connecticut, folks. He never talks about Connecticut. He's instrumental in putting CARE in charge of Connecticut, putting the Muslim Brotherhood in charge of Connecticut, back channeling to the Houthi, Hamas. He's concerned about Gaza. He said so. Why is he concerned? What did he do in Afghanistan? 85 billion. 85 billion. Murphy's been funding terrorism for years.
Because all Trump cares about, right, is loyalty. And so if he controls the spending and not Congress, then he can use the power of the Treasury to essentially make people swear loyalty oaths to him, to give money only to nonprofits or government programs or states or congressional districts that say, I'm on board with whatever you want, Donald Trump. And then he can withhold money from states or congressional districts or nonprofits that don't swear loyalty pledges to him. What does he want? Well, he wants permanent power.
Murphy's been funding George Soros and using CISA, which was a seed company of George Soros, to register illegal voters and basically just generate them out of thin air so that he can manipulate the vote. When I ran against him in November, he erased every vote that I have through the Secretary of State, Stephanie Thomas, who needs to be arrested, through Attorney General Tong. Attorney General Tong and the Office of the Attorney General in Connecticut signed the election hacking software of LHS and ES&S, GEMS, NoInc, Seidel, Tyler Technologies, and all the criminal elements involved in hacking the U.S. elections. All by Chris Murphy, all under his oversight.
The Trump family wants permanent power. They want Donald Trump to finish out his term, maybe get a third term. They want Eric and Donald Jr. to follow suit. And so the only way that they get to stay in power is to essentially destroy the Constitution, to destroy dissent. And one of the ways they do that is by seizing control of federal spending so that they can use it like a king uses it to punish enemies and reward friends. Now, the specific friends they want to reward happen to be their billionaire.
The friends he wants to reward are Antifa, BLM, and the NGOs that are destroying the country.
Millionaire Mar-a-Lago friends. So let me guarantee you that none of Elon Musk's contracts are going to stay suspended for long. Elon Musk's competitors' contracts will probably stay suspended for a long time. So what you're going to have is not just the use of our public funds in order to try to suppress dissent and reward loyalists.
These aren't public funds. Look at the deficit. Look at the budget. This is printing money.
Also going to just have the transfer of money to the billionaires and the millionaires that surround Donald Trump. Okay. The second thing they've done is
That can't possibly happen. That can't possibly happen because it is his role and Congress's role to write the checks. The checks that are bouncing are in the budget, which can't be justified. These payments, this money laundering needs to stop. And he is a money launderer.
to shutter USAID. So how does that fit into the story here? Well, it fits into the story because one billionaire in particular, the guy who's running the show right now, Elon Musk, needs to take control of America's foreign policy in order to pad his pockets. He gets tons of government contracts, so he obviously wants to make sure that he keeps his defense contracts.
Chris Murphy is chair of foreign relations, and he's worried about Elon Musk. This guy is pro-Hamas, pro-Al-Qaeda. He wants to give the keys to the kingdom to the Muslim Brotherhood.
To the space contracts, and he expands those contracts. But people don't know this. Musk makes half his cars in China. And his biggest non-American
Not true.
market isn't Europe, it's China. But he's in a row with China right now because right now China is not allowing him to market his self-driving vehicle. And they're trying to give advantage to their domestic self-driving product. And the Chinese are also at war with him when it comes to his Boring company and his other burgeoning tech companies. So he needs to be in favor with the Chinese government. Well, how do you get in quick favor with the Chinese government? You dismantle the agency that is the biggest thorn in the side of the Chinese, and that is USAID. What does USAID do? It contests China all over the world when China is trying to gain influence in Africa and in South America. USAID goes in and says, listen, you don't need to rely on the Chinese to solve your problems. You can trust the United States to help you run a port or to help you take on a virulent...
What happened to Menendez? 11 years imprisonment. Murphy's worried that he's going to jail forever.
disease or to help you get access to clean water. And so by contesting Chinese influence, we're
Qatar and Egypt worry Murphy. Murphy was foreign relations for Egypt, where Menendez took the bribes. Menendez was Murphy's boss. Murphy was foreign relations and Menendez was chair. So Murphy was responsible for the bribe to Menendez. If Menendez got gold bars in a Rolls Royce or Mercedes Benz for his relationship in Egypt, it was Murphy's country that he was responsible for, and Menendez had oversight. So the bribes to Menendez are a gift from Mr. Murphy here. How could he not know?
checking the ability of China to command the rules of the global economy. So Musk can do a nice favor to the Chinese by shutting down USAID, and in turn, maybe Elon Musk gets better, more favorable treatment from the Chinese government. So the USAID thing, probably has a lot of elements to it, but it is part of the story about the capture of U.S. policy for the benefit only of the billionaire class. Okay, and lastly, what's going on in Treasury? So this is the thing that has really set folks on fire, because we found out this weekend that Elon Musk and his 22-year-old crowd of sycophants have gotten into the Department of Treasury and have taken control of a key data system that controls all the payments that the federal government makes. Your refund check, your Social Security check, your Medicare benefit, every contract that is paid by the federal government. And so why does Musk and why does Trump want control of that system? The same reason why they shut off all government funding. They want to be able to turn on money to people that are loyal to them and turn off money that aren't loyal. And listen, I don't want to...
People loyal to Al-Qaeda should be turned off. People loyal to Hamas, the Houthi, and the Muslim Brotherhood should be turned off. And that is Chris Murphy. So not only did he not become Secretary of State under Kamala Harris, the promises he made he can't pay for now. So technically, he's in a lose-lose situation where people are going to roll over on him. And the fact that Hunter Biden has the same lobbyist as Chris Murphy should alarm him. The fact that Blumenthal's lobbyist is the same as Hunter Biden's, and now they're investigating. And Ukraine says they didn't get the money that Chris Murphy signed the check for. Really? Ukraine's about to roll over on Murphy, and Murphy's going to jail forever. And he rigged the election that I had with him. So, wait and see.
Overhype this or engage in scare tactics, but literally every worst case scenario has come true thus far. So why wouldn't you believe that Musk would be patrolling his own site, Twitter, and other social media sites to see what people are saying about him? And why wouldn't you believe that if he has control over who gets a tax refund or who gets a Social Security benefit, that you might suddenly have your refund delayed or suspended if you were too critical of him online or on his platform? I know that that sounds dystopian, but this is not normal to have unelected billionaires in control of our payment system. Normally, the Department of Treasury, there's like 5 people who have access to the system, and none of them are political appointees. They're all career civil servants. Why? Because you do not want the political class, never mind the billionaire class, having access to the question of who gets Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or tax refunds. So you got to fit this all into the same story. Trump is trying to seize control of federal contracts, of the Treasury's payment system, and of foreign policy, along with Elon Musk, in order to be able to run a loyalty pledge game and to be able to steal for themselves. Because in the end, their only legislative priority is a giant tax cut for Musk, the other billionaires, their corporate friends. And they can go 2 ways about it. They can just borrow all the money to fund this tax giveaway, or they could go into the Department of Treasury payment system and just start shutting down payments to ordinary Americans. They could keep Head Start programs closed. They could stop paying Medicare benefits. And they could then claim that they have saved all of this money by screwing regular Americans so that they now have plenty of resources to fund another massive tax break and giveaway to billionaires, millionaires, and corporations. So this is all part of the same story, and it's really important to understand it that way. But then let me bring in what happened just an hour ago. So I was going to do a appearance on CNN tonight to talk about this coordinated campaign of theft, and I was sitting in front of the camera with the earpiece in my ear.
CNN is affiliated with Altice, that owns News Channel 12, that puts Blumenthal on every Saturday, 6 times, 6 different stories, 60 different free plugs for Blumenthal. They've created his persona. Mr. Blumenthal reads an index card that they write, and in many cases, he knows nothing about the story till he steps onto the stage, and they tell him what to say. Okay? The media committee, judicial committee in Connecticut, runs the entire narrative, and they promote Chris Murphy, Himes, Hayes, DeLauro, Larson, and Courtney, while they all get rich.
Watching Trump's press conference with Netanyahu, and I, at this point, realized that I was probably not going to be talking about the crisis at the Treasury Department. I was probably going to be responding to this press conference, but I, got the chance to listen to it in real time, and many of you know what was said there. Donald Trump announced that the United States was going to invade Gaza. He announced that the United States was going to
No, he didn't.
take over Gaza, level it, purge it, and cleanse it of the 2 million Palestinians who live there, and rebuild it into something beautiful. Now, that is the most offensive thing that I have heard in the last 2 hours, because there are crazy offensive things coming out of this White House multiple times a day. It is also the most dangerous thing that Donald Trump has maybe ever proposed, because you go into Gaza with U.S. troops. You are talking about thousands of U.S. casualties, decades of war in Gaza. It's a cataclysm. But here's the news. It's not real. It's not real. The United States is not invading, occupying, leveling, and rebuilding Gaza.
Do you hear that?
Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't want that. No Middle Eastern leader wants that. Donald Trump has no intent on carrying that plan forward. What he wants is for you to be distracted. What he wants is for the media to be distracted. What he wants is for the chattering class to be distracted for the next 24, 48, 72 hours, so we don't talk about the real story, which is the billionaire takeover of government in order to steal from you to pad their pockets. So it is really important for us to fight the fights that matter, and to understand that sometimes you just have to ignore the bullshit from Donald Trump. And the thing about the Panama Canal, bullshit. Invading Greenland, bullshit. Occupying Gaza, bullshit. Okay, it doesn't mean that you don't take a heartbeat to call it out as ridiculous, but it means that tomorrow we have to get back to the work of getting Elon Musk out of the Treasury Department. It means tomorrow we have to get to the work.
Truthfully, Chris Murphy is using the NTIA, the Treasury, for his MK Ultra, mind control. Yeah. Read the lawsuit. 22 CV 01065. Read the lawsuit. Adam Lanza was a patient at Yale, mind control. He used a handicapped kid to disarm you and take away your Second Amendment right. He took away your First Amendment right through his censorship arm, the GEC. He took away your vote through CISA by diluting it with illegal aliens. He opened the border. He was in charge of the border. He's Democratic DHS Senate Subcommittee Chair of Open Borders. He brought the terrorists in. He's funded Hamas. He's upset. He's upset that he lost his power. And he's proven to be a terrorist. He's a domestic terrorist, folks. He didn't know. He wouldn't debate us at the election. Neither did Blumenthal. They're both domestic terrorists. They both have connections to CARE. Murphy pledged himself to CARE, folks.
Of frustrating their plan to seize government spending so that they can raid the Treasury to pass a billionaire and millionaire tax cut. And I appreciate, like, I'm reading all your comments here, and I appreciate the fact that you get this, right? I think we're learning, right? And I can literally see you learning in real time that these are distractions. And sometimes it's hard to know, right? Because, like, what a mistake we'd make if the imminent invasion of Gaza wasn't a distraction and we didn't talk about it, and then all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of Americans are dying there. But I was on the Senate floor tonight, and you know, it's sad to me how few of my Republican colleagues take any of this seriously. But let me guarantee you, none of them were taking seriously the invasion of Gaza. They were all talking to each other about getting the last few votes on their terrible nominees and lining up this big tax cut for billionaires and millionaires. And so I'm confident that this is not something that you have to worry about, and that tomorrow we have to get back to the work of taking on Musk and the billionaires. But let me just leave you with this. And AOC did a wonderful job, I think it was last night, laying out for you why none of us are helpless, and we aren't. We aren't helpless. Tonight we did a protest outside of the Treasury Department, and it was noticed by the groups that were running it, Move On, Indivisible, a handful of others, just like a couple hours beforehand. And, you know, I thought maybe there was going to...
So the super progressives were there. Move On.
Be, you know, there's going to be like 100, 200 people there. But there were like 1,000+ people there, and it was growing and growing. Literally, as we were speaking, it was 500, it was 1,000. Who knows how many people were there? The police ultimately had to shut down the street. It wasn't main intersections in downtown DC. They just had to shut it down because there were so many people there. And it got me remembering 2017. Okay, what was the number one agenda in 2017 for Trump in his first term? The repeal of the Affordable Care Act. Is the Affordable Care Act gone? No, it's not. It's still there. Despite the fact that it was their number one agenda item, we stopped it. We stopped it. You and I, all of us, we stopped it. And we stopped it not because we convinced Trump to give up on it, not because we convinced Republicans to give up on it, but because we convinced three Republicans to say no. And so if you want to stop the billionaire takeover of government, if you want to stop this big tax cut that's coming down the pike.
He stopped the Affordable Care Act? And he's bragging about it?
If you want to stop RFK Jr., if you want to stop Tulsi Gabbard, you don't need 20 Republicans. You need a handful. And so what we did in 2017 was we just raised the volume level on the disaster, the political and policy and moral disaster that would occur if the Affordable Care Act was repealed. And we were all over. Like, you guys were calling every single day to Democrats and Republicans. You were showing up to town halls. Remember those town halls in 2017 that we were having? Thousands of people were showing up. You were coming to Washington. You were part of the Women's March. You were part of subsequent protests specifically on the Affordable Care Act. And ultimately, that had an impact in two ways. One, it ultimately convinced just enough Republicans to say no. But second, it convinced a bunch of other Republicans who were going to vote yes to do it quietly, to do it kind of sheepishly. And so what you're trying to do on all of this is turn a couple votes, but then try to press the advocacy of other Republicans. So on our legislative strategy, we still have an opportunity to defeat this billionaire tax cut that's coming down the pike that is likely going to be paired with massive cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, but only if we raise the volume level. So that means that you have to go out and join either local or national groups, MoveOn and Indivisible are great examples, who are organizing these actions at the local level and the national level. It really does make a difference. I'm telling you, in 2017, Republicans got cold feet because they saw the volume level that we had organized around protesting the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. And just enough of them decided that they were scared about what that would mean for them electorally, that they either gave up and voted no, or they just lowered their volume level. Okay? That's one thing that we can do. The second thing we can do is continue to press on the court system. So we're going to continue to file lawsuits against these illegal actions. There are all sorts of ways in which you can write small donation checks to help these lawsuit efforts. We had a conversation tonight.
He's using the lawsuit all right. He hasn't answered it. It's 2.5 years old. And he used the U.S. attorney to defend him, when in fact the U.S. attorney should be defending Connecticut persons' rights. For example, if Hamden, Connecticut's Wi-Fi is 6 million times the legal limit, the U.S. attorney should be protecting you against radiation. And the fact that the FCC standard is from 1996 during 2G, that the standard was supposed to be revised since 4G is 1,000 times stronger than 5G. Mr. Murphy's in charge with autism, giving the state cancer, and making the state infertile. He wants to decrease the surplus population, folks, by taking away your First Amendment right, your Second Amendment right. He's taken away the Fifth Amendment right to grand jury. He's taken away sheriffs. If anyone is preaching a lawless society in the Constitution state, it's Mr. Murphy, who does not believe in the Constitution.
Tonight, about 8 o'clock on the floor of the Senate, about how we can legally intersect with some of the lawsuits that are being brought. For instance, it's pretty clear to me that Trump is in violation of the court orders telling him to restart all of these government programs. You probably heard today that Head Start programs are once again turned off. Well, Senate Democrats are in a position to go out and help survey not-for-profit states, municipalities to build the evidence that the steal is still on. That will help the court case. So we can all assist in the legal strategy with small donations to groups like Democracy Forward, which are bringing these lawsuits, or the work that we can do to try to help build their case. And then lastly, there's just the work that we have to do, right? There's the work that we have to do. And I get it. I have a just different obligation. You all play a huge role in raising the temperature, but I've got this job in the United States Senate. And the question is, what do we do about it? Here's sort of my simple take on what we do in the Senate right now. I'm not going to vote for one single nominee that Trump puts forward so long as this corruption still exists. I'm just drawing a line, and I'm encouraging my colleagues to draw that line as well. And so
not going to vote for one single nominee, though the FBI has proven to be compromised, and the CIA that works for Murphy as DHS Senate Subcommittee Chair, he's comfortable with the politicization, and he's saying, let's go to the courts. Those judges are bought. They were bought by Oxy. Oxy pill mill pushers have bought judges, and they are bragging about it in the Stanford Superior Court. And they are assisting Murphy with false arrest of the candidates that ran against him. Hey, there's 4 of them. There's 4 of them. If you run against a Democrat in Connecticut, you're going to be falsely arrested, folks. That's exactly what he did. And the case hasn't been heard. And the judge is in his pocket. And he put the judge on the bench to be in his pocket. So here we go. In the Constitution state, you can't get discovery in a case against Chris Murphy. Why? He's a public official. He rigged the election. The votes are missing for me. All of them. I took pictures of the ballots. I asked people who voted for me to take pictures of the ballots. What happened? I have the pictures. How is it possible that Chris Murphy arranged through Judge Clark, Kavanewski, Kremrich, Gennario? How did he arrange through Judge Meyer to falsify an election? Chris Murphy's worried that he will be disclosed, revealed, and his criminal policy will put him in jail forever.
We, I think, need to use our voices in the Senate to make it as hard as possible for them to be able to populate the administration with folks who are going to facilitate this corruption. Down the line, do I reserve the ability, if things get normal again, to vote for a Trump nominee here or there that I think is qualified? Sure, but not right now. Not right now. Well, this theft is not right now. Well, Elon Musk has access to all of your data. Not right now. Well, USAID is being defunded in China.
The bribery evidence is going to come out. And we need to drain the New England swamp. Elizabeth Warren lied in the past. Blumenthal, we know, lied in the past about stolen valor. And Murphy is in bed with Hunter Biden on Burisma. That is a fact, Jack. Murphy bragged that if Trump had Biden investigated, that Murphy would remove all support for Ukraine. Folks, he's defending democracy and threatening to pull the funding which they never got. If you think they got $220 million, Zelensky's saying they got $75 billion. Something's wrong here. Payment for influence. Murphy thought he was going to be Secretary of State under Kamala. Made a lot of promises he can't keep now. So he's acting like a caged rat. And he's freaking out.
And Russia are celebrating all around the world. Not right now. Well, Trump is violating these court orders. We can also be clear that we're not going to help Republicans move to any legislation until this crisis is solved. Now, I think we made a mistake a couple weeks back. The first agenda item out of the gate was the Laken-Riley Act. Republicans had this really terrible bill to lock up tens of thousands of nonviolent migrants and to gum up the works of the immigration system with a series of lawsuit rights. That bill passed because Democrats joined Republicans in passing it. Now, I voted against it because I thought it was a terrible piece of legislation, but I also voted against it because I saw the early signs of the thievery of the constitutional crisis, and I just did not think that we should be acting like there's business as usual happening on this.
Blue states don't follow the Constitution. Okay? Connecticut is blue. Danbury, Connecticut hacked Pennsylvania in the 2020 election. When Trump won Florida, Connecticut decided that it had to win Pennsylvania. So they used ES&S, Tyler Technologies, and Seidel, and CISA, which Murphy had control of, funded by Soros. So you've seen Murphy's picture with Alex Soros, and you allowed it.
on the Senate floor, and so that should be our operating modality right now. The Democrats do not give votes to Republicans because you need 60 votes to proceed to legislation until this constitutional crisis, until this theft of your data and your money is over. Now, has every Senate Democrat come to that conclusion yet? No, but we are almost there. It used to be that there were 20 or 30 Democrats voting for nominees. Today, that number, I think, is 2 or 3 or 4. So we are growing in our unity, and between your advocacy, the legal strategy, and our ability to deal consequences to these complicit Republicans on the Senate floor, we have the power to turn this back, to make Republicans pay a price.
Chris is dirty, and when proven, he needs to go to jail for bribery and treason.
For this turnover of government to the billionaire class, and ultimately to make them pay a price in elections. So listen, I just wanted to, I talked so much that I didn't even, I didn't have an opportunity to drink with you, but I wanted to just be able to talk to you a little bit tonight about viewing all of these disparate crises through the same prism, right? Just say it again. It is all about stealing from you to reward the billionaires, an oligarchy, a kleptocracy, right? A government in which there's a small class of very powerful economic elites that rule, and government is just a means by which to funnel money to them. Now, somebody just asked a good question, and it was something I meant to cover, and so I'll leave you with this. What's coming next from Republicans? Somebody just said, what about the Department of Education? Same story.
Chris is working for the Illuminati globalist agenda because people have promised him things.
Same story. So I posted on social media last night, or maybe it was this morning. I really have no idea any longer. Like the days, nights, the mornings kind of blend together because we're doing this 24/7.
Because he lost his mind and he had the rug pulled out from under him, and now he owes people and he has no way to pay them.
But I posted something on social media the other day about the private equity industry beginning to make a big play in education. And what does that mean? Well, some of it is private equity investing in what they call ed tech companies, companies that provide technologies that classrooms use. But some of it is actually simpler. Private equity starting to buy schools. And so why do Republicans want to shutter the Department of Education? They'll tell you it's because we want local control of schools. Bullshit. That's not why this is happening. Yes, there are some Republicans that don't want the federal government to play any role in schools. Yes, there are some Republicans that want to obliterate our civil rights protections, and the only way that we really adequately protect kids in schools is through the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Education. But it's
not true.
Really about the money. It's always about the money, right? What they want to do is privatize our school system, privatize our elementary schools, privatize our middle schools, privatize our high schools, and sell them off to the highest bidder. And so it is not a coincidence that there are stories in business publications about the private equity industry starting to marshal funds around a big investment in education at the same time that the Trump administration is proposing to destroy the Department of Education and privatize all public education, because it's all the same story. Taking government and turning it into a fountain of profit, a source of profit for the richest individuals in the country. Remember, the people that run these hedge funds, they are not like you and me. I'm not complaining. I make more than the average American. But the people who run these hedge funds, like their biggest problem every day is like whether they buy the third yacht or which private school that costs $60,000 their kindergartner is going to attend. These hedge fund owners don't have the same problems as you and I, but the whole construction of
The hedge funds control everything. The hedge funds control everything. Look at the Pritzker family. Funded all Connecticut hedge funds back in the 80s. They own 64 companies that are privately managed and are doing exactly that. Chris Murphy is working with hedge fund managers in Connecticut that control the BlackRocks of the world, which own the corporations like Raytheon Electric Boat, Bank America, Merrill Lynch, 100%. And it is Chris Murphy allowing the bribes from the hedge funds to line his pockets. And he is bought. It is not the story of the billionaires, Trump and Elon Musk, that you need to worry about. It is the hedge funds themselves. And he knows it because he's on their payroll.
Trump administration is an effort to steal from us to enrich them. So the Department of Education shutdown is about a bunch of things, but at its heart, it's about the money. It's about our school system being the last bastion of public service that has not been privatized yet. And these...
If you knew the truth, like for example, Fairfield Prep, Catholic organization, their Wi-Fi is set at 39,900, which is 40 times the legal limit. Why? They're making those children infertile. They're giving them cancer. And Chris Murphy's behind it. Chris Murphy knows because he's a subject to the lawsuit. So tell me this. Tell me this. Why does every parochial school in Connecticut have their Wi-Fi set over 2,000 that I've been to? Because they're making the children of Catholics infertile. Okay? They're taking over and giving children cancer. And Murphy knows he's subject to the lawsuit that he hasn't answered. He's relying on the court, which is bought, to protect him. And Judge Meyer was in his pocket. No doubt about it. Blumenthal and Murphy put Meyer on the bench. And the payback is the Murphy agenda, which is not the Trump agenda.
Greedy investors, these billionaires, these multimillionaires, they can't stand it. They can't stand it that there is one last true public service. I guess they still have fire and police.
Sorry, a pro-trans policy for kindergartners is unethical. Look at Yale. Yale is a defendant with Murphy in our trial. Yale did the Pfizer and the Moderna testing on the COVID vaccines in Ukraine, tested on orphans without consent. You think Murphy's concerned about children? I really don't. Be careful what you wish for when you voted for this guy. Now, you may not have voted for him at all, but he destroyed the cast vote record, so we can't prove it. So Chris Murphy is destroying evidence of elections through Tong, his business partner, his fellow defendant. Chris Murphy and the Secretary of State, which he was planning to become under Kamala, Denise Merrill, Criminal. She's a criminal. She destroyed the cast vote record, so we can't certify Chris Murphy's election. Chris Murphy's not the senator of Connecticut. It can't be certified because they used the ES&S software. It can't be certified because they didn't certify the GEMS vote count because the cast vote record was destroyed by Gabby Rosenberg and Scott Bates. Scott Bates works for Murphy. Scott Bates went to Turkey 20 times. Why? To negotiate for Chris Murphy. It's illegal. He's not registered as a foreign agent. Scott Bates is a criminal. He destroyed the cast vote record for Chris Murphy's election. As I said, Chris Murphy is not the U.S. Senator for Connecticut. The election can't be certified. Here we go. He has no immunity because his election was falsified. Every vote for me is missing. He is disqualified. Chris Murphy has disqualified himself. Richard Blumenthal disqualified himself. Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal lost the Brunson case, 22-380. They certified a known falsified election. They knowingly certified a falsified election. And that's exactly what Stephanie Thomas did for Chris Murphy.
Police protection, but that'll come next as well. They've taken over our defense industry. They've taken over our healthcare.
No. BlackRock owns Raytheon. It owns Lockheed Martin. They're not taking over. Chris Murphy stopped Saudi Arabia from buying Connecticut munitions, military hardware. How did Trump take over when Murphy barred Saudi Arabia from buying items from General Dynamics in Groton, Connecticut? He's a liar. He hopes you don't know.
Industry, and now they want our kids' schools. So that's what's coming next, maybe as early as later this week. But again, view it through the same prism. Elon Musk wants USAID destroyed, in part so that he can get on China's good side to be able to make more money. Trump wants all federal spending
Ridiculous.
shut down so that he can control it and give contracts to his billionaire friends and keep them away from his average, ordinary, everyday political opponents. Elon Musk wants your information at Treasury, one, so that he can just steal your money, your refunds, your benefits.
Write the date down. An Irishman had 1/3 of a drink. Got so drunk he went on the internet and made this video.
So that he can fund the tax cut for billionaires and millionaires, but also so that he can potentially, along with Donald Trump, reward friends and punish enemies. And the best way to do that is to withhold.
So what Chris Murphy admitted to in this video is that he's not going to vote for any good bills for the state of Connecticut. Doesn't matter. He won't do it. If it's a Republican bill, he won't sign it. Guess what? He's not working for Connecticut. He never has. What he's working for is a globalist strategy. He promoted the Iran deal, bribing Iran to fund the Houthi, Hamas, Al-Qaeda, and all the other terrorists of the world. Chris Murphy put me on the terrorist watch list, had me falsely arrested, assaulted, and robbed, and he hasn't answered the complaint that I filed in Stamford Superior Court, which was transferred to the Bridgeport Federal Court, which was transferred to the New Haven Federal Court. Now it is in the Hartford Federal Court. We can't get a fair trial in Connecticut because of Chris Murphy and his influence over the judges he put on the bench.
Your money until you line up and pledge loyalty. So it's all part of the same story, but none of us are powerless. This story is not done, right? It's just the beginning of the story. If we rise up, if we start showing up, we have the, not just the possibility, but we have the power and the likelihood of success, of stopping this billionaire takeover, this theft from ordinary Americans in its tracks. All right, tell me if this is useful. I'm gonna scroll through these comments. Tell me, if this is helpful, because I'll, try to do this on a semi-regular basis, try to give you a little bit of insight into what's happening in the Senate so we can be communicating in real time about how we...
He won't work or vote for a single bill that's good for you. Vote him out. Wait till the news comes out. I believe he's committed treason 12 times, folks. If I'm wrong, let him defend himself. But everything he seems to say is a lie, and he needs to go to jail, because we're now in World War III due to his funding of Iran. He's upset about Gaza because he's pro-Palestinian. Okay, I'm pro-Israel. So what? Born and raised in Queens. There's good Israelis and there's bad. But the fact remains, he's never worked in your best interest.
Organized to protect this country, protect our democracy. Thanks, everybody.
Wow. There you go, Connecticut. Murphy rigged his own election, has no immunity, and he needs to go to jail. So when the evidence comes out about his bribery and his extortion, he's rigging federal cases, including the one he's a defendant in. Have a great day.